Hi guys, welcome to Latinas Uprising. Today I want to talk to you about what you can do to pass the bar. So if you're taking the bar right now, you're studying for it, you already know because you're a few weeks in that it's a horrible time. It's just a lot of time, it's horrible material, and you're really stressed physically, financially, emotionally. And if you haven't gone through bar prep, then you just don't know how bad it can be. I took the exam a few years ago and I was a hot mess. It was just one of the worst summers of my life, and but I made it through. And I'm here to tell you that you can make it through as well as long as you put in the hard work and time that's necessary. So one of the first things you really need to make sure you're doing in order to pass the bar exam is that you're doing your practice essays. Now that seems obvious because that's what you're doing most of the time while you're prepping, is doing your practice essays, but oftentimes we're not doing them in the correct way. Sometimes you're reading the hypothetical and you're recognizing the causes of actions or the issues pretty quickly, and then you're moving on and you say, oh, that's a constitutional law question, and I would talk about the rational basis test and move on. You need to actually do your practice essays as if you are under time conditions, and you need to write them out in the way you will be writing them out during the exam, because they don't only grade you on whether you know the black letter law, they are also grading you on how you format your answers, and your format needs to meet the IRAC method essentially. So you really need to get into the flow of being able to isolate the issue, determine what the answer is, and then format it in a way that's cohesive and that flows in a nice manner, all within the essentially 20 minutes to answer, because it usually takes about 10 minutes to get everything organized in your head while you're doing these questions. So you really need to practice on how you're going to do that under time conditions, and you really need to practice your format as well as knowing the black letter law. So you need to do all of this in tandem. You also need to make sure that you're picking up all of those kind of tricks in order to pick out the best answers for the multi-state, and then work on memorizing your mnemonic devices. These are things that most people will end up doing eventually, but it's better if you know now that that's what you need to do, that's what you need to be doing right now from the get-go. So that's the very first thing you need to do. Above all, is do your practice essays. Just practice and practice and practice your essays. The next thing you need to do, though, is to make sure that you're studying at a pace that's not going to make you burn out before you get to the bar exam. So if you're studying right now and you're putting in 12 to 14 hours a day, more likely than not, at this juncture, which is the beginning of the summer, that's going to be too much time and you're going to burn out. So by the time you reach the date of the exam, you may have not been able to study as much as you would have because of your burnout. So I really recommend that at the beginning stages you take some form of distraction. On the weekends, have some hours carved out where you're doing something fun, have some type of distraction, understand your own kind of rhythm, and when you're not kind of absorbing the information, take a break. Even if you've only been studying for 2 hours, that's just the way your brain is being that day. Take a break, make sure you're giving yourself some respite, because if you just go pedal to the metal from the get-go, don't interact with family or friends, all you do is study, you're going to burn out by early July, and you're going to lose some precious time because it's going to be really hard to get back into the rhythm of things once it's time to really get started again for the exam. So just make sure you're pacing yourself and that you're allowing yourself to have those breaks that you need. I know when I was studying, if I was reading something and I realized I just wasn't absorbing it, I hit a wall essentially, I knew that that was the key for me to go and take a break. I would go watch a video, I would go get a snack, sometimes I would exercise, very rarely, but I would do whatever I needed to do in order to re-energize and get refocused again. So that's something you should consider doing. The other thing you really need to do, which seems to be impossible for a lot of people, is that you need to get a full night's sleep. I know, crazy, but you really need to sleep. And the reason for that is because the bar exam, most of it is a memory game. Did you memorize the law correctly? Did you memorize those mnemonic devices? Did you memorize those tricks for the multi-state? You need to know, it's mostly all memory. And your brain can't memorize, it can't retain information if it's tired, if it's lacking sleep. You might be staying up until 2, 3, but all that information that you're reading is not sticking in your head because you're not letting your brain rest and re-energize. So do your very best to get a full night's sleep. that will really make such a big impact in how you're able to study and what you retain, that it won't matter that you're not staying up as late, because the times that you're actually studying are quality time. When I was studying for the bar, I was really lucky that I lived in this like open concept loft, and my husband was working a 9 to 5 job, and he needed to go to bed at a normal hour, and so I would go to bed at that time as well, because there was just no way I could make noise and keep the lights on, and he would be able to sleep. And that really helped me, because normally I'm a night owl, so I would have been up till midnight or later, but because I was sleeping almost 8 hours a night, I was so well rested. I was able to retain so much information, memorize things very quickly, because my brain was re-energized and recharged. So I fully recommend that to people. Do your very best to sleep as much as possible. And in the same vein, you also need to do your very best to make sure you're nourishing yourself in a healthy way. Most of the time that we're taking the bar exam, we're existing on coffee and a pastry if you're studying at a cafe. And it's so funny, because like if I were to go back in time and see what I was doing when I was studying for the bar, you'd be like, girl, you're one to talk, because I was literally consisting on candy. I was eating Skittles all the time, and I don't even eat Skittles, but I was just like sugar. Like I needed that like moment of just relief to feel good, and so like I really was drawn to candy while I was studying for the bar. That's not the best game plan. I don't really recommend it. What I really recommend that people do is that they really carve out some time on the weekend to make sure that they're grocery shopping or meal planning, so that they have healthy foods that are accessible to them. You need snacks or fruits, vegetables, things like that. Pick those over those processed foods, even though they taste so good and they feel so good, those comfort foods. Just make sure you're eating something healthy at least once a day, because that will really help your own body and brain, because your brain can't function if it's groggy, if it's trying to fight through all that like greasy food. Your body doesn't feel good, and that's just more stress on yourself that you really don't need. So make sure you're nourishing yourself as best as possible, and that you're getting your full nights. So I wouldn't be a good lawyer if I didn't tell you that just because you follow these things that I've recommended, that you're going to 100% pass. I'm sorry, I can't guarantee that, but I can promise you that if you do your best and you are well rested, well nourished, well versed in the format of the bar exam, you will go into the exam at a better advantage than if you didn't do these things. That's what I can promise you. And I know right now it's really tough. It really sucks, because no one likes studying for the bar exam, but I know that you can do it. I know that you are working really hard, and I'm really rooting for you, and I'm really excited to see all of you pass the bar, because I, as a member of the bar, am eager to have more people of color join us and help make the system just a little bit more just. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have friends who are studying for the bar, share this with them to make sure to remind them that they should be taking care of themselves while they're studying. Check us out at latinasuprising.com. Subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions about what it's like to be in law school or to practice, put them down below, or check us out again at latinasuprising.com, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.